Right, so we're a couple of weeks in now. Unfortunately, I've not had the time to get around to this as much as I was hoping to, and it's starting to dry up quite fast. So I've already laced up one side, as you can see, like we showed in the previous video. Bored those holes with the square awl and laced it with the willow bark. So I'm just going to do the same on the other side. Roughly similar measurements. So now the biggest thing I've noticed as being an issue is the bark itself is quite thin, and as it dries it's curling round on itself. So what I propose to do is create some sort of rim that'll go around the top of the basket and hold it open in place the whole time. So just as I'm drilling in a few more holes here, what I've done is I've cut a thin branch, actually it was hazel rather than a piece of willow, stripped the bark off, and I've kind of softened it, pre-bent it, actually split it in half. So we're working with a semicircular rim that will go around the top of the basket, and hopefully that should be sufficient just to hold it open enough and stop the thin edges curling round. Alright, so I'm just drilling these last two stitching holes up the side. What may be handy actually is just having something to hold this in place, so all our lacing holes are going to be lined up. I guess you could do it as you're going. Drill a hole, then lace it, drill a hole, then lace it. Let's see, I think we're almost through there. Now what I did on the other side was starting from the bottom, thread from the inside out, and I'd knotted, let's see, there we go, I'd knotted one end of the lace. There we go, this has just come straight out the bucket. Knot one end of the lace, have that on the inside, so that as I pull it through the basket it's going to get caught and hopefully secure that first stitch. So as I'm stitching it now, we've got a little bit of wiggle room, so I could stitch it quite loosely, and then once I've gone through all the holes, then I can tighten it all up. Now I've actually gone for quite a long bit of this bark lacing because I think I can use any excess to help me secure the rim. Right, I've got a little bit of you notice there's a little bit of a break in this bit of lace. I'm just going to have to be careful as it goes through so as not to break it, because I do want that full length. Right, so what I may be able to do is trim off this little flap so that it doesn't catch every time I pull it through one of these drilled holes. Just taking care to get that lying fairly flat and neat. Should have drilled less holes. Yeah, not having that excess just allows it to pull through that hole just a lot easier. Right, so I'm just going to carry on stitching up here until we get to the top, and then we'll have a look at how we're going to fit the rim. Alright, just on to stitching this last hole now. Now it's still a little bit loose. I'm just going to work my way. I'm going to use the awl just to help tug at this stitching. Just try and tighten each one up. Being very careful not to break any of the lacing. slowly working it through, hole by hole. Now it's just around here where that lacing had split slightly, so I'm just gonna a little bit extra care, get my hands on the inside if I can. Now I'm curious if this basket is too tall. I'm right on that split now, and it started to really thin out. Let's see if I can encourage some more of that lacing through, just to add some extra strength. Increase that hole size a bit. Now that the lacing's in, I'm being really careful not to drill because I don't want to cut it with the awl. I'm just trying to push that hole open just a tad. Trying to encourage that through. Oh, nice little fiddly project. Maybe try one hole at a time. Alright, I'm just starting to notice this is because I've drilled quite near to the edge. The bark is starting to split just a little, so what I may do is leave that for now. Don't split out. So you can see where it's separated and a thicker piece has been left inside. I'm trying to just work with that one piece now, just to rescue this last little bit of stitching. That's it. Almost there. There we go. And finish off in that top hole. Okay, so it's stitched up both sides now. Unfortunately, I don't have that length I was hoping for, but I may be able to use this. Lacing now finished. Trying to get it as neat as I could. Didn't help it breaking out. What we're going to try and do now is fit this rim on. So what I've done is split a hazel branch down the middle, so we're dealing with a sort of semicircular shape, and I've tried to form it as best I can already. One end I've just sliced down to an angled taper, and the other end I've just reduced ever so slightly so they can lay over the top and not form such a big sort of step up in between. And the tricky bit is, how are we going to secure this? Right, what we're going to have to do first, of course, is do a few holes around the top for the lace. Because it's quite close to the edge, I can do some really quick uniform holes using my leather punch. Being careful not to go too close to the edge, because we want to avoid it starting to split out, which it's almost doing. You can just see some of the lines that might just form if we're not careful. Just ways the bark's folded over. Definite weaknesses. Alright, so a couple more. Alright. What I might try is actually thread one end of the branch into one of those holes to start with, and see if that gives me a nice starting, almost like an anchor point for the rest to stitch round. So yeah, let's see. Let's go with that first hole there. And I can take the bark lacing over the top. Well, I'm going to have to be quite forceful for this. Oh, that's worked quite well actually, just locking it in that first hole. Right. Concentration time, tongue's sticking out. Now I think I'm going to do a couple of rounds of this if I can. I have some spare lacing, which is going to be really useful. Alright, that's about stopped. I've not got much length to go any further with that, so I'm just going to wrap it round twice, so back through that same hole twice, and I'll see if I can lock that off somehow, maybe a little clove hitch, something like that. There we go. And you can see, oh, split out. I've just done an extra wrap there. Now there's quite a lot of force, there's a lot of spring in this this branch, so I'm going to be careful to actually hold it in position while I do the last stitching, in the hope, let's see, another bit in the hope that it's going to hold shape. It's going to come from the back there and carry on stitching round. So just coming up to the last stitch now. It just happens to be down the side stitching where a couple of wraps should just secure that rim material in place. I'm just going to get the edge of that to a point, just going to make it easier to stitch with. There we go. And that is fairly secure. One last stitch just for good measure. Where's my awl? Bit of space for the lacing. There we go. So there we have it. Our bark basket with hazel rim. Stitched with willow bark lacing. What I may do is just try and neaten up this rim a little bit more, try and get it a bit more uniform, and then snip off some of the excess. What I'll do a little snippet of the finished project afterwards. I hope you find this useful. It's been quite a learning curve for myself. Takeaway points: try and find the thickest bark that you can. Less eyes, less knots in it. I'm going to give you stronger material, but yeah, have a play, have an experiment, and let me know how you get on. Cheers. I'm just going to have a little fiddle and see how I can finish this off. Okay, the finished article. Did a couple more wraps around that rim. That gives us an open necked, fairly tall willow bark basket. Hope you enjoyed that, folks. Yeah, that was a good fun little project to do. Cheers.